You're listening to ThunderQuack Podcast Network. This is the ThunderQuack Podcast, the official podcast of ThunderQuack Podcast Network, where anything can happen. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts. It's ThunderQuack time!
It is kind of like it's like a thing that you get to like accomplish after you're done being sick, is that you get to like clean everything and be like, okay.
Oh my god. The first shower after being sick, because when you're sick it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm gonna shower. First off, I can't stand for that long.
Right.
Like, my head is throbbing. I just want to lay in bed. Right? Like, last night I totally forgot to brush my teeth.
Oh,
and
no.
so like I had to brush them extra hard this morning, because like I hit a certain point last night where I'm comfortable.
Right.
The drugs have kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go to sleep. And it wasn't until the morning when I woke up with like that terrible taste in my mouth that I was like, I did not brush my teeth last night. That first real shower after being sick, where you step out and you're starting to feel better, so you feel like a human being again.
Yeah.
It's
so nice.
Yeah.
I'm reading this book right now called The Power of Habit or something like that. It's like pretty popular right now. It's like I joined an alumni book club for UBC. It's like online. But anyways, I'm reading it. I'm really enjoying it. But they have this whole thing about toothpaste, and that people didn't brush their teeth for a really long time until somebody came up with an advertising shtick for it. But what got people to brush their teeth was that he found out later, like you do science research and you find a way to like correlate your cause or whatever. And he said that the reason he thinks that it worked, that people started brushing their teeth, was not only that they talked about plaque and like the film on your teeth and like being able to clean it off. So like there was like a catchy ad that went along with it. But ultimately what it was is the toothpaste had added a tingle to it, so that after you brush your teeth, you could feel the tingle. And that was like a reward, that your brain was like, ooh, my teeth are clean now. And apparently the freshness, like that fresh tingle in toothpaste, is an added thing. Like that's not in any way necessary for toothpaste to work. But because people expect it, like that's what tells you that your teeth are clean, that all toothpastes add that in. But it's like it's such an interesting, it's like the idea of like adding smells to gas. Like gas doesn't smell like that. Same with toothpaste. It doesn't need to leave the tingle. They literally add that so that you feel like you've brushed your teeth, like you feel cleaner.
Huh.
I don't know. I just thought that was really fascinating. But it was like it's a really good book. I'm really enjoying it. It's like a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, and that's why I do all these terrible things. Maybe I should change my habits. You know.
You won't, though.
I know, because, I like my life. No, I really should. There's some things that I'm like, if I just did this one thing, and I did it like, anyways, whatever. But it's really like, we're really malleable people. It's crazy.
Yeah, if I could just not eat junk food, I'd be a lot healthier and in a lot better shape. Yeah. If I could just not eat candy. Yeah. Like literally just not eat candy. But which, like, I look around and I see that most adults don't eat candy. They certainly don't eat as much candy as I do. That's
fair.
It is like, it's such a like viscerally upsetting thing for me, because I'm just like, if I could just stop, but I can't. Like, I make it halfway through the day and I'm like, I really need some sort of sugar. But the other part of that is that I don't drink coffee, right? So
that makes sense. That you
as a functioning adult, I got to get my energy boost from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it would actually be worse, because you get less bang for your buck if I did it with carbs, right? Because I'd have to eat so much more carbs, like so say potato chips or crackers or cookies, right? But like to go straight to like a gummy candy, it's like, well, that's basically just like it's like an espresso shot versus a cup of drip coffee, right?
That's fair.
One has substantially more caffeine than the other. Actually, I think that might be an urban myth sort of thing, that espresso has more caffeine. But I
think it's just like constant. It's just concentrated, like how you. Yeah. But it's
yeah.
No, I totally get it. It's there. Yeah. The thing too for me to like read the book though and realize that there are some things that I do that actually are good habits. Like it's like, I didn't even think of that as a habit. But something as simple as the fact that I literally, whenever I come to see you to record, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but I like my body like craves Wendy's on Wednesdays because that's the day that I drive out, and it always just makes the most sense for me to just grab food because I eat it in the car on the way out, right? So I always like when I'm driving long distances now, my body has started to be like, you know what, you want Wendy's. It's like crazy, and I'm like, oh yep, I can feel that, because he also talks about that in the thing, how like some families, like all it takes sometimes for franchises to lose customers is to like move location, because if there's families that like had a habit of going there because they would see it all the time or stuff like that, right? Where it's like, some of it, and it's just like it is a thing that I'm like, I fully believe that if I'm going a certain place where I get used to being like, this is what I would eat when I was there, I like start to crave it. And so that's the other part of habits. So
so for a long time, Crystal and I didn't really eat McDonald's very often. It would be like a once in a while thing. Cara will eat an entire McDonald's hamburger. Mm-hmm. And so when we know that she needs protein, right? Like when it's been a couple of days and she's refused to eat meat in any other circumstance, it's like, well, let's go to McDonald's for lunch, or let's get McDonald's for dinner, because we know then she'll get some protein.
Interesting.
She's pretty good about Wendy's as well, but which I prefer because Wendy's is a little bit better.
I don't know. It's the only one I can eat. I can't eat a lot of different fast foods. I mean, I'm not like super picky or anything like that, but there's some that I just like eat way less than others. But Wendy's is one that I can eat. Like I eat it. I could eat it like every week. So
yeah, we're in such a habit of eating McDonald's now, though. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's addicting, right? Like they put something in it, which is more than likely just sugar. There's a lot of sugar in the buns. Which is the same for Subway. Subway to me is the worst, because like McDonald's isn't trying to be anything but McDonald's. It's like, hey, McDonald's, you love it. Like that's our tagline. I'm loving it. Justin Timberlake says so, right?
Yeah.
Like. Although, don't take advice from Justin Timberlake because he doesn't believe in vaccinations.
Oh, no. That's
actually, to be more accurate, his wife doesn't believe in vaccinations, and I don't think that he cares enough to fight her on it. Yeah. I don't think he's got much of a leg to stand on. I think that there's been some infidelity stuff with them in the past, as with all of that sort of person, right? When you're on tour and that sort of thing. But Subway is the worst, because Subway's slogan is eat fresh. There's nothing fresh about Subway. It's deli meat, which means that it's processed meat. You're eating processed meat, no matter what. It's processed meat, right?
Yeah.
The buns are not fresh. They're fresh baked in store, right? But they are shipped, in some instances across country, as frozen lumps of bread, right? Lumps of dough that they then bake in store. So it's not fresh bread. It's frozen bread that's been like thawed and then baked. And I mean, like, they're charging you a lot of money for some diced lettuce and pre-cut tomatoes. Like, if that's what you think you're getting out of it. And then like the less than 6 grams of fat or whatever, it's like it's irrelevant because you're eating sugared bread. So
I always have the wraps. I never eat the like full ones.
Those are higher calorie count than the buns.
I don't. Calories is a potato. I don't know. I eat so much bread that like one more piece of bread is fine, but I just can't. When I'm eating the Subway, I want more lettuce and like vegetables, like in each bite, than I want bread, because it just like tastes. I don't know. I just like ripe. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I like wraps better.
Wow. They should not be allowed to use the slogan "Eat Fresh," because It's a lie. Anywhere that has processed chunks of chicken should not be allowed to say eat fresh. Like people who get the whatever the teriyaki chicken thing, and it's like those. It's like
that. Yep,
is that what you get?
That's
It's
the
like
one I get.
they're like the little like styrofoam packing peanuts of chicken.
Basically.
Yeah, I don't. Or you like, I'm gonna get a Philly cheese steak. Where are you going? Subway. No, you're not. That's not steak. That's reconstituted beef. Like that's not. That's not steak. That's not. You're kind of defeating the purpose. But
yeah, but I mean, I eat processed food like every day, anyways. So,
that's true.
That's just let's not get into my terrible eating habits too much.
I just think if you're gonna, if what you want is a sandwich, there is almost always within walking distance of a Subway a way better place to get a sandwich.
I mean, fair.
And a sandwich is also not a difficult thing to make, right? Like you can make yourself a really nice sandwich to take for lunch. Yeah. If that's what you're about. Soup is the same thing. It's like there's not like soup is one of the best things to make for lunches because you just make I hate soup, so I would never do this, but you make a really big batch of soup and then you can portion it out for the week, right?
Yeah, fair.
Anyways.
Fair.
Those are my healthy eating tips. I don't follow any of them, but
but they're there.
I know what I'm doing wrong, and that's kind of the most disheartening
frustrating
thing.
person. Oh yeah, right? yeah, that would be. That's fair. I mean, here's the thing. I feel like we all know what we're doing wrong, but at a certain point, it's like the decision to like the director on my show is like really health conscious. We got a bunch of snacks for everybody the other day, and he's like, I won't eat this. He's like, but if you buy plantain chips, maybe I'll eat those. And I was like, okay. So I got plantain chips because I wanted him to be able to like have something. But it's like a thing too, where this other guy was sitting in the thing, and he's like, oh, I can't eat the things. And I was like, you know what? I would rather have the donut. I understand that maybe later in my life, and I was talking to my parents about this. My parents have been really good over the last couple of years to like change their habits a little bit and stay healthy because there's so many people in their age demographic that are just like not really taking care of themselves. So I'm like really pleased to see that. And I know that I'm going to have to do that. But while I'm still in my early 30s, I'm going to eat the chocolate because I like it.
Yeah.
And I look at these photos. Oh, I had to fill out these. Oh, so fun news for me. My short film, the animated short film, delivered like tonight. It's why we're recording so late because I had like so many problems. But anyways, it's done. Yay. And we were featured in the Georgia Straight, which is really, really awesome. And so cool. And I totally lost my train of thought. It was related to my movie. What was I talking about? Something about eating.
Yeah.
And habits and what we're getting food. Oh man, it fell out of my brain. That was like those segues.
You were talking about your parents eating healthy, and then you were talking about pictures.
I was talking about, oh yes. So for the butterfly effect, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I had to send, we were featured, like our publicist, we have a publicist for the film, which is really awesome. And so she's getting us to like fill out all these like people that want to like print things about us. We're answering all these questions, and some of them are like wanting photos as well. So I'm scrolling through all these photos last night being like, oh my gosh, I was so skinny like at all these different times in my life. But here's the thing, I never felt like I ever looked good. Like I always felt like there was something wrong with me. So I'm like, I feel like that now, but I also want, like, it just is so much better. I had this apple pie for Thanksgiving, and it was just the best thing. And I'm just like, you know what? I just want to enjoy the apple pie while I can, and realize that as long as I'm like able to still walk around and like keep myself like I know that I should definitely be healthier. I should definitely do more cardio, but I'm not like terribly unhealthy, that I'm just I'm going to enjoy the pie. So, speaking of, I'm going to have another bite of this tiramisu.
Go for it.
Say something so that I can mute it while I eat this tiramisu.
So, like, here's the thing, right? We've been talking I've been recording for about 16 and a half minutes. And the first 2 minutes of that we can't use. But after that, basically when I said, I don't know, I started with something.
Yeah.
This is all gonna go to ThunderQuack, to people who are paying the $1.
Good.
Because they haven't gotten anything in 2 months.
Neglected them for many, many months. Yeah. Well, okay, you had a baby.
I had a baby. I don't know what your excuse was, but I had a baby.
You had a baby.
Yeah.
No, but well, okay. So here's the thing: our film is premiering as part of the Mothers of a Medium program at Spark, which, would really suck if you were female identifying and couldn't have kids and were part of that. But anyways, there's a lot of problematic things I think with the title of that program, but we're really excited about the program and with the women, like it's a women-centered program. So I am gonna lean into it and be like, we had a baby and it's a film. So that's what I've been doing over the last 2 months, because I know what parents like is when people correlate other things in life to the children.
Yeah, I'm sure that Crystal will have absolutely no problem with you saying that working on a short film and getting that produced was the same as her going through labor. Oh. That's,
to be fair, I didn't say that. I said that there was a baby that was a film, or I don't know. I don't even know. It's an odd, what else are you supposed to think of with a title like that though, right? Like they called it Mothers of Medium. Do they mean like mother effers maybe, where it's like badass mothers?
I don't know. I don't know the people in question, so I can't really get inside their heads. Well,
I'm just thinking of like titles of things. But anyways, it's a pretty cool program. It's a program with all these women in it. But I will say it's not the same. But I apologize. I have been busy doing that over the last little bit. I also went to Indonesia since we've last.
You did
talked.
Go
I had to
to
Indonesia for work.
Yeah.
So I had things that were not baby related.
What was that like? What was it like being in Indonesia?
In Indonesia?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I want to live there. I would actually, I've never been south of the equator, and the part I was in Indonesia was like north of the equator. So I still have never been to the equator, even though I've been to Indonesia, which is technically like part of it is under the equator. But it was really awesome. The thing that was really weird though, is that the place I went was basically just a studio. It's on a place called Batam Island. And so this sort of northern tip of the island is basically a film studio. And so the people have created like a resort, a golf course, a live action film studio, an animated film studio, and a ferry terminal. So you actually just come across right from Singapore to the ferry terminal, and it's all part of like the same company basically. And so we were staying at the resort and then going to the studio, and it was really awesome. But that is basically what I did while I was there, is I would be at my room or I would be at the studio working.
Yeah.
So it's not like I was on a vacation, but I did get to spend a day in Singapore, which was really awesome. And Singapore is fantastic. It's so futuristic and the technology is amazing. And they have this Gardens by the Bay. It's like this basically. Okay. Did you watch Crazy Rich Asians?
No, I still haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, there's this really sweet hotel in Crazy Rich Asians that's like these 3 pillars with like a boat sort of thing on top, and it's really, really tall and big, and it's basically this big iconic building in Singapore, and just like there's like these gardens that are really close to it, like outside of it, and they have these huge light trees, like these trees that are basically made of lights that you can there's a path that you can go on that's like in the treetops that connects these electronic trees. And every night they have this light show that all of these trees come on, and it's like these different songs from different parts of Asia. And so it's really, really cool. And we were there while there was a lantern festival, and then we got there just in time. Like literally we were walking around the corner and we saw this big group of people gathered, and we're like, what are they gathered here for? And then we hear the speakers go, welcome to the something lights, and we're like, whoa, cool. So we sat and watched that, and anyways, it was just really good. It was just a really good fun time. And it's a long flight though. It's a long way away. But yeah, it was really awesome.
Cool. Since this is ThunderQuack and not Quiver Yet.
Yeah.
What have you seen since the last time we recorded? We recorded the first week of August, I want to say. Was that how recently we recorded?
I feel like maybe it was a little later than that. Wait, no, sometime. Yeah, oh no, yes, because we recorded after I got back from San Diego Comic-Con, which was the end of July.
Yeah.
So, you mean movies? What have I seen? Like movies?
What movies have you seen? What have you been watching?
Oh yeah. Well, I finally watched Spider-Man Far From Home. Like literally like on Monday I watched it. Just
Yikes.
at my house. I can't believe I haven't watched it till then.
You never saw it in the theater?
No, man. It's the first Marvel movie I've ever missed in theaters.
I don't think we can
I know.
do this anymore. I think that you're fired.
I know. We all know that Spider-Man is not my favorite, so like it wasn't something.
Oh my god!
I did try to go. You know that. I know that everybody loves Spider-Man, and there's something wrong with me for not really liking him. But it's good. I really loved it, and I knew that it was something that I would really want to watch eventually. I think when it was out, it just like didn't work out for me to go see it. But so I know that I'm late to the party, but obviously that was really, really good. And there were so many things in it that I'm like, how do people not tell me about all these things? But I guess that's like, I'm glad that they didn't, because that would have been spoilery. So
yeah, spoilers.
Yeah.
Stuff like what? Everybody listening to this has seen the movie at least twice now. So
Sure. Well, okay, because I was watching it and I was kind of like, why do Nick Fury and like Maria Hill, why are they like weird in this movie?
Yeah.
It was like sort of like throughout the whole thing. I was like, I guess it's just like whatever. But then I was like, oh no, this was all intentional. Oh, so good. And it also made me freak out about how like that could totally happen in real life. Like I hate it when they use like, I don't know. I mean, I know it couldn't really, but like I really hope that VR is headed in that direction. Not in so that supervillains could like take over the world, but you know, I just think it has a lot of potential for art.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool overall. What else happened in the film that I was a little bit like, whoa, that, I don't know. Anyways, it was cool. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. He used to be like one of my faves. So it was kind of nice to see him in a movie. I hadn't seen him in anything in a while. But other than that, I actually genuinely don't know if I saw any movies in theaters. Oh, no, I went to go see Hustlers. One night, me and Ryan had extra time, and we decided to just go watch a movie, and we didn't know what movie we wanted to watch. Like, we didn't actually, I wanted to watch a different movie, and he wanted to watch different movies, and we wound up going to see, hey, wait, no, that was the last time I was at your place.
It was, yeah.
When, I will correct myself, I thought that Charlie's Angels was out, but Charlie's Angels went on sale that day. So that's why I was like super confused, because I was like, no, I can buy tickets for it. It's because it went on sale. It wasn't like playing. But Hustlers was really good. But unexpectedly so. Like I hadn't heard anything about it. But it's like all these badass ladies, and Usher was in it, which is fun. Like as himself. Like there's just this little cameo where they're like, our last really good day, Usher came to the strip club, and so like it's like there's this whole scene with Usher. It's pretty fun. But also Lizzo is amazing. So basically I've fallen in love with Lizzo over the summer.
I don't understand. I haven't sought this out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because it's such like a thing of the moment that I'm like, I don't know, like, is Lizzo that great, or is it that it's just a hype moment thing? What is the deal? Explain to the listeners, to old people, what that means.
Yeah, Lizzo is great. I mean, I don't think it's just a hype thing. It's the idea that in a world where people are talking about body positivity, there's not a lot of people that are living it, and she is living it. And I think that that's a lot of what it is. And she's super mega talented and just DGAF. Like,
yeah.
Basically, she just is like so unabashedly like who she is. And her music is also like the thing is, her music has been around for a while. Like the Truth Hurts, which is like was number one for like a real long time. Was out like 2 years ago or something like that. Like it's not like this is like it's, and so I think it's just people really like starting to like her be on everybody's radar. And I'm listening to her, like a lot of her stuff, and her songs are just good. Like there's a real good song called Like a Girl that's real like really positive and trans inclusive, and like it's just, she just has really positive messaging.
Yeah.
And it's not a farce. Like she genuinely loves herself. And the thing in our society that people, like when you look at somebody who looks like Lizzo and you don't know anything about her and you don't sort of see that, the first thing you see about her is her weight. Yeah. And so for somebody to completely like love herself and not and know that like she is who she is and she has so much love to give and that she's amazing like that like nobody loves themselves in the same way that she like seems to genuinely love herself, and that is so cool and inspiring. And so for me that's really what it is, where it's like it's not hard to love yourself, you just do it. But that's the hardest thing ever, right? Is to just like believe that what you tell yourself is the truth, and no matter like what people are going to say about you, really at the end of the day, like you're the one that has to live with you. So, you know, be you. And it's really cool. Plus she's super like badass and sexy and awesome and wears these bodysuits and like twerks like a mofo and she's just like so cool. So I don't know. That's what I like about Lizzo. And she has this like great, I saw this like Vine compilation or something like that where she's like saying like bye bitch in the, that's just like her saying it in a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But one of them, she's like dressed like Sailor Moon, and it's just, anyways, she just seems, oh, and she's a flautist. She like plays the flute. And it's such a weird random skill for a pop star to have. So I don't know. She just seems like a cool person. So,
okay. But the music is actually very good.
Oh yeah, man. Truth Hurts is so. See, here's the thing. I knew her songs before I knew who she was, right? Like I had heard the name Lizzo independently, and then I had heard the songs independently, not knowing that they were by Lizzo. And when I put the two and two together, I went, oh man, yeah. But she has some really good music. But again, if you like pop music, so not everybody likes pop music. I really like pop music, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
So you haven't been watching like anything on Netflix or?
Oh, no. Did I? What was the last thing I've watched on Netflix? No, you know what? No, it's been a summer where I've just genuinely read. Like I found this like app where I got free books for the month of basically September, and I read like 4 books a week. So I haven't really been watching stuff that much. I've been reading a ton. And I'm really stoked on it because I've read more books this year than I think the last 5 years combined. Like I've just really shifted over. So my content consumption this summer has really been book driven versus television driven. So I'm not really binging a lot of stuff. I watch Friends all the time when it's on. Oh, and The Good Place, because I love The Good Place. It's the one. And here's the hardest part it was on, I just want to like find more things that I want to love. And so when I see The Good Place come on, it's like always I like want to watch it. So yeah. Anyways, no, what are you watching on Netflix?
So I actually just because I was sick, I finished off last season of Supergirl, which I hadn't watched basically since the crossover. But I am actually all caught up to live now. So
is that season 4?
I want to say yeah, that was season 4, which just was released on Netflix. So
yep, that's the one it was advertising to me. It's season 4. So.
Yeah. And Supergirl continues to be really good. I think certainly compared to the other shows, that Supergirl, I think the biggest difference is that it's just like it actually has a goal. Like it actually kind of stands for something, whereas Arrow is meaningless.
Yep.
And we're definitely going to talk about that in the season premiere that we're going to do in a minute. But The Flash is good, but every episode of The Flash is the same. Andy's going to hate me for saying this because you can't say anything bad about The Flash. But every single episode, it's like the Power Rangers, right? Like, how does a Power Rangers episode go? The Power Rangers are having a party of some sort or some sort of special event. There's some sort of a moral tied into that special event that one of either Jason or Tommy is going to teach to a child. Yep. And then the event is crashed by a monster or putties. They fight that. Either a person is kidnapped or an item is stolen that's going to ruin the event. and it happens to coincide with something that Rita or Lord Zed thinks is going to be the key to taking over the world, right? And then the Power Rangers have to figure out, not even really figure out, but just wait for the bad guy to show up again. They'll fight the bad guy as Power Rangers. They will potentially lose, but not actually very often lose. They'll actually beat the bad guy in their small form, and then the bad guy gets bigger, and then they use the Megazord to defeat the bad guy, and they always finish with the sword move, which is like...
Yeah, because they can't get there unless they have that.
Yeah, why don't you just, the second it's big...
Just use the sword.
Why are the Zords ever separate? Why don't you park them as the Megazord? Like, let's save a bunch of time and buildings, to be perfectly honest, and just do that. So the Flash is very similar. Every episode of The Flash starts with one member of Team Flash really doubting themselves because last week, they needed to step up, but they didn't step up, Amanda. They didn't step up, okay?
Yeah.
So, like, what are they going to do? How are they going to ever face the rest of the team knowing that they should have stepped up when they didn't step up, right? And then the Flash himself, knowing what's happening in the future, will be very upset about a future that hasn't happened yet, that they will undoubtedly stop from happening, but not before he has 15 monologues over the course of the season about how the future is already set and they're barreling towards it and there's nothing he can do about it, and he's gonna let Iris down. And then a bad guy shows up, the bad guy beats them, and then they go back to Star Labs and they have to reconfigure a satellite, and then they know where the bad guy is, so they go to the bad guy. And then they either shoot the bad guy with a gun that stops the bad guy's powers. They distract the bad guy so that somebody else can shoot the bad guy with the things that dampen the powers. Or the Flash has to run faster than he's ever run before in order to create a vortex, or travel back in time, or duplicate himself, or throw a lightning bolt that will stop the bad guy. And then they stop the bad guy, and then Iris tells Flash, or Joe tells Flash, or on occasion, maybe the only time it's ever good, right. The only time, like, The Flash is a good show, I'm giving it a hard time, but the only time that The Flash is ever great is when it's shoot, I'm gonna blame this on the fact that I'm super tired, because he's literally my favorite character on the show. But Elongated Man.
I don't know who that is because I haven't watched enough of it.
I can't. It's like on the tip of my tongue. I've been very sick recently, everybody.
Elongated Man, like on The Flash.
On The Flash, yeah. This shows how out of sorry?
Randolph?
No. Ralph Dibny, thank you.
Ralph is short for Randolph.
I don't know.
According to Wikipedia,
okay. The great episodes of that show are the ones where Ralph is the one with the nugget of wisdom at the end.
This guy with he has a black eye patch or a black eye mask and a
he's stretchy. He's like Mr. Fantastic. Or Plastic Man is the character that most people who aren't paying attention or don't have a deep knowledge of comics think that he's supposed to be, but he's not. He's Elongated Man, which is a different character.
That's fair.
Although they have very similar powers. But Ralph is the reason why I keep watching that show. Last season was actually really good with XS. His daughter from the future. I really enjoyed last season, but so far the 2 episodes this season, I think mostly because there's not a bad guy yet. And the other part of it is just that the crisis is taking over.
Right.
And as much as I get that that's where things are going, either pepper it in or allow it to actually be the story.
Right.
It's got to be one of the two, because if it's just going to be if it's going to be the B story in every episode from now until January, this is going to get really tiring. And when we talk about Arrow, I'll get into that. I know that a lot of people really enjoyed that episode, but I found it exhausting. And I'm not caught up on Legends yet, so I need to get caught up on that. But I think the biggest thing that I saw in theaters since the last time we recorded that was incredible, that just blew me away, was Abominable, the DreamWorks animation film.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
It was so good. It was so good. So the whole thing takes place in China, which you don't really get from the trailers.
Yeah.
But it's not an American story. It's a Chinese story, which is really cool. It's co-produced by a company called Pearl out of China. So you can tell, that's kind of... DreamWorks, I think, is maybe distributing it. I don't know the details of it, but my guess would be that Pearl was making it. But the other thing is that, it's all lip-synced to the American voices. So it's Chloe Bennett is the voice of the main character, which people might not be familiar with the name of the actress, but she plays Quake on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
So she's the main character in that. And it's just basically about, she's a teenage girl who finds a yeti on her roof.
Nice.
That has escaped from some people who captured it and want to put it on display, and she befriends the yeti and has to help him get back to Mount Everest. And
Right.
Cara and I went to it, and taking her to movies has been rough, because she's just at that age where she doesn't want to listen to rules and she kind of wants to do her own thing. She's a little bit better one-on-one, so I tend to want to take her by myself, but if we try and go as a family, she'll be really obnoxious. But with this movie, start to finish, she was glued to it. She loved it, and she hasn't stopped talking about it, and that was a couple weeks ago. That was the end of September. It was 3 or 4 weeks ago almost. And it really, really made an impression on her. And I think it, honestly, for me, and I have opinions about Pixar stuff, but we saw Toy Story 4. Cara and I went and saw Toy Story 4. She hated it. She did not like it.
Interesting.
And I found it to be a complete waste of my time. Just Toy Story 3 was such a perfect button to that story.
Yeah.
And then I've enjoyed the little shorts that they've done. They did a Halloween one and they did a Christmas one, and they introduced some new characters and stuff. And they've done some fun stuff, but this movie was just I hated Toy Story 4, to be honest. But I also hated The Incredibles 2. And I think I talked about that on previous podcasts. That it's kind of stuck in the dark ages of doing Mr. Mom in 2018 at the time.
Oh, right.
Was
yeah.
a ridiculous choice. And super sexist and offensive to anybody who is a competent dad. Even if the movies are supposed to take place in a pseudo 1960s, whatever, I don't care. It's that's not a good excuse to tell that story and put that in front of kids and families. I just Homer Simpson should be outlawed, because I think that idea of dads are just bumbling buffoons it's actually really damaging. And it creates it really contributes to toxic masculinity, because then it's because women have a tendency to lean into those tropes with guys, and it's anytime they do anything wrong, it's oh, well, you're just a dumb guy, right? Go to your man cave, right? Oh, men are children, right? That sort of thing. It's very dismissive. And then guys get bent out of shape, and then they become misogynistic, and so it's not healthy for that conversation to be happening on either side of it. But anyways, so Pixar movies to me as of late have been really, really bad. And just it hit a point where they stopped making Pixar movies for kids that also appeal to adults, and they started making Pixar movies for adults that a kid might enjoy, maybe because there's some action and some flashy colors. Whereas Everest is a story that a 3-year-old can absolutely 100% understand, with very, I think, true emotional beats that even if they don't understand it, they can internalize it, and they can process those emotions. So Kara absolutely understood the stakes of the movie. She understood that even though the Yeti at times was acting aggressively, that he was the good guy, even though he's a scary monster, right? He's defending his friends, right? And these people in black outfits, they're the bad guys. Like, there's a moment where they're on this bridge and they're surrounded by the bad guys. It's it's the end of the second act, right? And she like had this reaction of like, oh no, how are they gonna get out of this? And then when the Yeti starts doing magic, she's like, oh yeah, the Yeti's magic, that's awesome. And it was like, and she's growing up, so she's like, it's like every little bit, every time we go see something or watch a show or whatever, I'm noticing that she's picking up on different things and she's evolving as a human being and all that. But this was like sort of a leap for her, of all of a sudden, like, she understood the nuance of the situation, and the actual stakes. And when we were watching Toy Story, she just thought that everybody was a bad guy.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
because like all the toys come to life and they hide when people are around, and half of the characters in Toy Story 4 are creepy and are bad guys. So she really couldn't distinguish between who she was rooting for and who she wasn't. And it was all just a little bit too real, I think. And it just like it just like it's astounding to me that a Toy Story movie wouldn't connect with a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that seems wrong, because we've never watched the other Toy Stories because we don't own them on Blu-ray. So once Disney Plus hits in a couple of weeks here, we'll be able to go back and watch that stuff because it'll all be on there. But she doesn't have any connection to those characters. So going to Toy Story 4 was kind of like, she was just kind of confused by it. And the story was honestly like really difficult to follow. Not that I ever got confused, but it was just like,
but it's just like hard to follow. Yeah, because
it's just like, what are we trying to accomplish now? What's the goal here? Like what is Woody's motivation other than he misses Bo, right? Like that's his whole motivation for the movie. And it's like, but I thought it's important to be a toy. Like, it's very confusing. Like the movie just seems like it had no real solid narrative thread. But not Everest, which is what they should have called it. They should have called that movie Everest. But Abominable was fantastic, and I think really great for representation, because, like I said, it's a Chinese story. It takes place in China. It essentially ends up being them traveling across China and seeing all of these incredible sights in that country, and it kind of represents, I think, in a very difficult time to do so, the best parts of that country, and the history of it, and that sort of thing, which I think is really good. Because as problematic as China tends to be lately, that's China the government, not China the people, right? So like, you have to kind of distinguish those things. And this is a story very much about the people and sort of the history of that country, which is an incredible history, right? So awesome. And there's some really cool stuff. Like, what it did, like, it really, and I think this was part of its propaganda agenda, was to make you go like, China's a cool place to visit, you know, like, it'd be really cool. And I'm like, wow, I really hope that, like, geopolitically they sort themselves out, because then I'll go visit. But not real big on going to China at the moment. Certainly not well. The cat-headed man is still the president of the United States.
Cat-headed.
I don't like to say his actual name.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Because it's kind of like saying Voldemort. Like
okay.
But it's like, I don't know. It just, he feeds off of it. He feeds off of everybody. Feel like every time somebody says his name, he gets like a little bit of juice. You know, like he just like that's just 5 more characters on Twitter for him. So I just don't want to feed into that. But yeah, I think that I think things are a little bit they're a little bit on edge in that part of the world with Westerners at the moment. So yeah. But the movie was awesome. So I highly recommend it to everybody. We don't buy a lot of stuff anymore because everything ends up on Netflix or some streaming service sooner or later. But Cara loves this movie so much and she hasn't stopped talking about it. So when it's available on digital, I'm going to buy it and so that she can watch it and so that we don't have to worry about one day it won't be on Netflix.
Right.
Or whatever, if it does end up on Netflix. It's DreamWorks, so it probably will because they tend to be pretty tight with Netflix right now, but yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. What did I just finish on? I don't know. There's kind of the other stuff that everybody else has been watching, I feel like, but I did just finish something on Netflix a little while ago. Oh, I was watching my brain's not fully functioning at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Because it's like it was my favorite show for a minute there, Mindhunter. Which I just totally ignored for the whole first season of that. I just saw the ads on Netflix and was like, there's nothing in this for me. And then one of my coworkers told me that I might enjoy it. And I started watching it, and it's a show about basically the guys in the FBI, and one woman, Anna Torv plays her from Fringe, and these 3 people, these 2 agents, and Anna Torv, who's she's like a psychologist, like a university professor, and they basically create FBI profiling by interviewing serial killers so that they can then profile serial killers and catch them before they kill somebody else. Right. And so it takes place in the 70s, and it's a really, really great suspenseful, sort of, it's kind of like, it's like Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal without the weirdness. Particularly Hannibal. Hannibal was great, but it was very esoteric and odd and difficult to follow because you couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't a lot of the time. But Mindhunter is all of the suspense and crime, like true crime type drama of that without the weird art house sort of element that Hannibal has to it, which, like, Hannibal's awesome, so I'm not saying bad things about that. But if that puts you off of Hannibal, if you wanted a more straightforward story with more straightforward characters, Mindhunter is really good. But I will say it's not for everybody. It's pretty graphic, and it gets into the minds of serial killers in a very unabashed, shameless way. And it gets pretty intense at times. And there were at least 2 episodes that like broke me down. So, and it takes a lot. Like I'm pretty good about that stuff, especially like, I think cause I watch so much TV and because I've got, the sort of, production knowledge to see through a lot of stuff, especially a lot of like screenwriting, like manipulation. But there are a couple of storylines in that show that I don't want to spoil. That one of them definitely like wrecked me, and I had to stop watching for the night.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know what? you know what show I've never finished because I just don't want it to do that. Like I'm just like I want it to be what it is. I feel like I've said that before, but it's like I won't continue to watch Jessica Jones because I just know that it's just I don't know, but not in the same way. But it's just like sometimes where you just have to like rage quit something or just like leave. So I feel real guilty every time I'm like I really should finish Jessica Jones, but I probably won't, to be honest. So
that's fair. I totally understand that because Jessica Jones gets pretty intense at a certain point as well. And speaking of that, so I finished Mindhunter the night before I went and saw Joker by myself.
I remember you posted about this.
Yeah, and I was like, I did. I posted like this is a 1-2 punch that only a sadist would inflict themselves with, but that's just how it kind of worked out for me, and it's made me very suspicious of everybody. But
did you like Joker?
That's a difficult question to answer. Okay. The short answer is that it's a very well made film. What I said on the ThunderQuack review, which is my long answer, you can go listen to Paul, myself, and Paul's wife Morgan talk about that at length. But what I said on that to sort of intro it is that it's one of the best movies you'll never want to watch again.
Oh, interesting.
It's very unsettling. It's very disturbing, but only because it is so well executed. It really puts you inside the mind of this version of the Joker, and it doesn't, at no point does it ever make him relatable or sympathetic, but it absolutely lets you understand how a person could become that character, which is that's a very, very fine distinction and a very difficult line to ride, but it does a really good job of staying right on the edge of that. And anytime he does anything horrific, it's never painted as glorified or sensational. It is always brutal and disturbing. That's sort of where it's like I think you might find yourself wanting to like it, right? Like wanting to like him as a character and that sort of thing, but not being able to because of the reality of who he is and what he's doing. But you'll leave ashamed that you're not doing more to break down the systems that can create people like this. And that's the thing, is that like this Joker is not a cartoon villain.
Right.
There are circumstances that lead to him becoming Joker. That you sort of, you're kind of working backwards from the conclusion, but so you can see that a lot of the time, but that's just the nature of telling that story with that character. Like you can't avoid it. It is all just building up to introduce me as Joker, right? Like, but even still, it gives you a real sense of like, this could happen. That if the circumstances were similar, this is how you end up with serial killers. This is how you end up with seriously disturbed people who do seriously disturbed things. So yeah, I don't know. I think that if you've got the stomach for it, go see it. But I told Crystal she never needs to watch it. She's far too sympathetic a person to like, I wouldn't she could handle it, but I wouldn't want her to endure it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you are a sensitive person or you are very empathetic or sympathetic, then yeah, it's going to be a rough movie. But if you can remain detached and just kind of enjoy it for the piece of filmmaking that it is, I think it's really, really well made. But my worry is that now we're going to get a whole bunch of these movies, and I don't want that. Right. I want this one, and then let's walk away. right? Which is the same way that I felt about Logan. It's like you got to make Logan because you made all those other X-Men movies, and Logan was the perfect way to stop making Fox X-Men movies. Right. And unfortunately, then they continued making Fox X-Men movies. But I think they might be done now. But yeah, it's this is very similar with this, where it's like, cool, can we go back to superheroes and tights and that sort of thing, which I don't think they're going to.
But yeah. Did you see the Oscar the Grouch parody from SNL?
I did.
It's so good. Yeah. Dude, okay, this is the problem with me being not in front of you and instead in front of my computer. I've been Googling stuff while you've been talking. Yeah. And I just I didn't get accepted into this program that this workshop that I had applied for as part of the Whistler Film Festival. I just found out today. And so as I was I just was like, who got into the program? And it turns out Osric Chow is one of the people that got into it. And I'm like, okay, well, at least it seems like there's good people, or at least people that will So I feel okay having not gotten into the program if Osric Chow took my spot, because I really like him and the work that he does. So anyways, that was my way of apologizing for Googling, even though you didn't know that I was doing it while I was there. But then also sort of being like, I always forget that Osric Chow is just a dude making films in Canada. So, that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. So, cool. I think we'll cut it off there because we need to actually record about Arrow.
Yeah, and you have to stay awake while you do it because of the weakness and the. Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about Arrow. That's a good idea. Okay, bye. Oh, wait, I'm still here. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But I just mean bye.
Oh, bye to ThunderQuack listeners.
Yeah, that.
I guess we could outro the ThunderQuack podcast, but there's nothing to, I always say, there is no outro to the ThunderQuack podcast because they know where to get it. They're already supporting us on Patreon. They know where to buy a t-shirt if they want one. Many of them have already purchased t-shirts. I guess this is just where we apologize for not putting out episodes. But you're going to get episodes for the remainder of season 8 of Arrow, because we'll do exactly what we're doing here, where we'll basically do ThunderQuack. What we would have tagged on to the end of Quiver previously, we will be doing as ThunderQuack stuff. And then I guess I'll just announce them here because this is the only people that care, and they've already seen the things on Patreon if they've looked there. But we'll have 2 new shows starting sort of as these shows come online on Disney Plus. So Faster, More Intense, which will be a Star Wars podcast, will start in November on the 12th when The Mandalorian drops. And then Nuff Said, the MCU podcast will that'll happen when the next MCU release happens. So the next movie is May, which is Black Widow. But if we get one of the Netflix shows before then, which I don't think that we have even release windows for any of the Netflix, the Disney Plus shows.
Disney Plus ones, yeah.
But we kind of know generally when some of them are going to happen, because WandaVision is going to happen not this coming spring, but the following one, because it actually leads directly into Doctor Strange 2.
Right.
So it will happen sometime right before Doctor Strange 2. But what are we getting first? I think we're getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier first. And we haven't heard anything about when the release date is for that. But basically, for what you're going to lose with Quiver, you're going to gain, because Quiver is obviously 23-ish episodes a season, for every episode of Arrow. And then maybe a few special ones every once in a while. So what you lose with that, we've got 8 episodes of Mandalorian, so those will all be covered on Faster, More Intense. And then Nuff Said will do however many episodes Falcon and Winter Soldier is, and then whatever other shows, right? Mm-hmm. So those will be the places to basically get the Disney Plus, the same format, like or similar format. It'll be something either like we do for Quiver, or it'll be something like we do for Rebel Cells and Frontlines, where we have like a recap where we go kind of moment by moment through the episode. But in either case, like there'll be full breakdowns of each episode, but then also movie reviews that tie into those two properties. So yeah, and then when it becomes appropriate and my hand is forced, we'll create a DC one as well. But at the moment, DC's not really producing anything worthwhile. So the other thing is that and I'll just tell, this is just for ThunderQuack Patreon supporters. This isn't an official announcement of anything yet, but if Green Arrow and the Canaries ends up happening, which it looks like it might, and if you want more on that, we'll talk about it on Quiver. If that ends up happening, Quiver will stick around, but it won't be Amanda and I. Mm-hmm. It'll be a new team. So
I will say too, if it does actually happen, I am literally already in talks with other people to do something for it too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because it's like it definitely is the only thing I think that would get me to back into the DC, because I love DC, right? But yeah. I'd love to be able to continue to love it.
There you go. Okay. So Quiver might not actually be finished, but my time on Quiver, I will leave when Ollie leaves. Yeah. And then I'll say this now, I'll come back when Ollie comes back. So when he guest stars in episodes, because he'll die at the end of the season, during Crisis. We know that it's going to happen. It would be really lame if they built up to it and then he didn't. But I mean, he's not.
Now it's making me be like, yeah, but what else can we expect from a show that like constantly?
Well, I would just say like Stephen Amell is done, right? He's done, and he's found a way to exit the show without the show having to stop, without the production having to stop. That's what it looks like. If Green Arrow and the Canaries happens, and he's also, I'm sure, worked out something with them so that if he feels like coming back, if they write a good enough story for him to come back and do an episode, that he can do that. And with everybody that's coming for Crisis, like there's all bets are off for the rest of DC TV ever, the history of it, because the things that they're doing are ridiculous. And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean, like Brandon Routh playing Superman again.
So cool.
Tom Welling and Erica Durant's coming back. Yeah, like all of it is just mind-bendingly cool. Yeah. So, even if Stephen Amell is done for now, it doesn't mean he's done forever. So, anyways, okay, that's it.
ThunderQuack.
Yeah, that's it for ThunderQuack. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.